Each was charged with conspiracy to overthrow the constitutional order, their assets frozen, their networks severed. As dawn broke over the Clearwater Valley, Marcus stood outside the bunker, the pocket constitution in his hand. The operation had unfolded like a covert op from his military days. Precise, relentless, no room for error. Yet the victory felt fragile. Orion's leaders were in custody, but their ideas, their vision of control, could linger in others. Ellen joined him, her face etched with exhaustion but resolute. "We stopped Eclipse," she said. But Walter always said power finds a way to regroup. Blackwood, patched in Viacom's, agreed. "Pierce's loyalists are scattering. We'll need to watch for blowback, retaliation, maybe a splinter group." Marcus nodded, the Constitution's oath echoing in his mind. "Defend against all enemies, foreign and domestic. Then we keep fighting," he said. "Walter's archive, the Institute, it's our weapon. We make sure this never happens again." The ranch, miles away, waited, a symbol of renewal, its fields green, its barn ready to house the Sullivan Oversight Institute. Marcus's journey from a truck with $20 to a guardian of democracy was far from over. But for now, the truth had prevailed, and that was enough to keep moving forward. The Sullivan Ranch, once a derelict outpost in Wyoming's Clearwater Valley, had undergone a metamorphosis as profound as the man who now called it home. By spring 2026, the sagging house and faded barn had been reborn as the Sullivan Oversight Institute, a beacon of transparency in a world still reeling from the exposure of Project Orion's shadow government. Walter Sullivan's archive, a meticulously curated trove of Cold War secrets, from nuclear protocols to election rigging schemes, had survived attempts to bury it, becoming the cornerstone of sweeping reforms. The Constitutional Safeguards Act, signed into law a year after Orion's leaders were indicted, mandated unprecedented oversight of classified programs, ensuring no covert operation could evade congressional or civilian scrutiny again. Marcus Sullivan, who only 2 years prior had been a homeless veteran surviving on $20 in a rusted pickup truck, stood at the Institute's helm, his nightmares of Afghanistan's blood-soaked sands fading as a newfound purpose anchored his soul. Ellen Hayes, the CIA veteran who'd guided him through the conspiracy's unraveling, led the Institute's research arm, decoding Walter's cryptic records with a scholar's precision. Daniel Blackwood, once a DoD operative and now a trusted ally, served as liaison to federal agencies, navigating the delicate balance between transparency and national security. At the heart of the ranch, a memorial garden bloomed, its centerpiece a granite stone inscribed with Walter's epitaph, "Guardian of the Constitution." On a crisp spring evening, Marcus walked the garden's gravel paths, the air sweet with the scent of budding lilacs. The sun dipped below the Rockies, painting the sky in hues of amber and violet, and he paused at the garden's bench where a small package awaited. Wrapped in plain brown paper, it bore no return address, only his name in careful script. Inside was a pocket-sized Constitution, its leather cover worn to a soft sheen, its pages yellowed but intact. Walter's handwriting filled the margins, annotating clauses with insights on power, duty, and sacrifice. On the flyleaf, a single line stood out, underlined in bold ink, "Principles above all." Tucked between the pages was a note from FBI Deputy Director Sarah Klein, found at Langley, hidden in a classified vault. "Walter wanted you to have it. It's yours." Marcus held the book, its weight grounding him, and traced the path of his journey. From a Walmart parking lot with nothing but a duffel bag and a Bronze Star he couldn't face, he'd inherited not just a ranch but a mission, one that had reshaped a nation and given him a reason to live. The ranch, once a refuge from his demons, was now a fortress of truth, its fields lush with renewal, its buildings aglow with the quiet hum of scholars documenting secrets to protect democracy for generations. Marcus's days began before dawn, a habit forged in the military and cemented by years of sleepless nights. He rose in the ranch's master bedroom, now his own, its walls stripped of Walter's stark order and warmed with small touches, a framed photo of his old unit, a quilt from a Clearwater Valley shopkeeper who'd welcomed him as a neighbor. The nightmares that once jolted him awake, mortar fire, screams, the weight of a dying comrade, had dwindled, no longer a nightly torment but an occasional echo, softened by purpose. He'd learned to savor the ranch's silence, a stark contrast to the urban chaos that had fueled his post-traumatic stress. The creak of the floorboards, the distant call of a hawk, the rustle of wind through the fields, these were the sounds of a world he could control, a sanctuary he'd earned. By 6 a.m., Marcus was in the barn, now a state-of-the-art research hub. The trapdoor to Walter's secret chamber had been sealed, its contents relocated to a climate-controlled vault beneath the Institute's new wing, funded by bipartisan grants and private donors moved by Orion's exposure. The barn's main floor housed workstations where historians, analysts, and former intelligence officers pored over Walter's archive. Ellen, at 57, commanded the space like a general, her silver-streaked ponytail swinging as she directed researchers to cross-reference Nixon-era memos with declassified DoD files. Every document tells a story, she'd told Marcus once, her eyes alight with the same fire he'd seen in the safe house. Our job is to make sure those stories serve the truth, not power. Marcus's role as steward was less defined but no less vital. He oversaw the Institute's operations, security, funding, public outreach while serving as its public face, a reluctant but effective advocate. His military bearing and quiet authenticity resonated in congressional hearings, where he testified alongside Senator James Colton and Admiral Laura Hayes, detailing Orion's abuses and the need for the Safeguards Act. The Act's passage in April 2026 was a triumph, mandating civilian oversight boards, mandatory declassification schedules, and whistleblower protections. Marcus had stood in the Capitol's shadow as President Elena Martinez signed the bill, her speech echoing Walter's ethos. Democracy thrives in light, not shadows. For Marcus, it was a moment of vindication, proof that his fight and Walter's had mattered. Yet the Institute's work was far from done. Walter's archive, spanning Truman to Reagan, held thousands of documents still unprocessed, each a potential key to past abuses or future threats. Ellen's team had uncovered Orion's ties to private defense contractors, suggesting a web of influence that extended beyond government. Blackwood, working from a D.C. office but visiting monthly, relayed whispers of resistance within agencies, holdouts loyal to Orion's vision, wary of the Institute's scrutiny. Marcus felt the weight of their gaze, a reminder that transparency came with enemies. The Memorial Garden was Marcus's refuge, a place to reflect amid the Institute's relentless pace. Designed by a local landscaper who'd known Walter, it featured native plants, sagebrush, columbine, Indian paintbrush framing a winding path to the granite stone. Visitors, from scholars to senators, often lingered there, drawn to its quiet power. Marcus tended it himself, weeding and pruning, finding solace in the rhythm of manual work. It was here, on that spring evening, that the package appeared, its simplicity belying its significance. Holding Walter's Constitution, Marcus sat on the bench, the garden's stillness wrapping around him like a shield. The book's annotations revealed a man obsessed with balance, checks against power, safeguards for liberty. A note on the Fourth Amendment warned of surveillance overreach, another, on Article 2, cautioned against executive hubris. Marcus saw his great-uncle not as a hero but as a sentinel, flawed yet resolute, who'd chosen solitude to protect a nation. The note from Klein, written in her precise hand, stirred a mix of gratitude and unease. Langley, CIA headquarters, had been Walter's battlefield, a place where truths were buried. That his Constitution had survived there, hidden in a vault, felt like a message from beyond, a charge to keep fighting. Marcus's thoughts turned to his own past, the years of drift that had nearly broken him. At 34, he'd been a ghost, invisible to a society he'd bled for. The VA's backlogs, the job rejections, the nights in his truck, they'd stripped him to his core, leaving only the oath he'd sworn at 18 to defend the Constitution. That oath had carried him through Kandahar's chaos, through the loss of his squad to an IED, through the guilt of surviving when others didn't. It had brought him to the ranch, to Walter's legacy, to this moment. He wasn't whole. Scars, physical and mental, lingered, but he was no longer lost. The Institute had given him a mission, and the ranch, once a shelter, was now a home. The Institute wasn't just Marcus's redemption, it was a community. Ellen, who traded her CIA shadows for open scholarship, thrived in her role, mentoring young analysts with a blend of toughness and warmth. She'd confided in Marcus one evening, over coffee in the barn, about her own losses, a marriage ended by her covert life, a son estranged by years of absence. "Walter gave me purpose when I had none," she'd said, her voice soft. "This place is my second chance, too." Marcus saw her not just as a partner but as family, a bond forged in the crucible of their fight. Blackwood, by contrast, was a study in restraint, his DoD polish masking a reformer's heart. His monthly visits brought updates on agency compliance with the Safeguards Act, but also warnings. "Not everyone's happy with us," he told Marcus during a recent walk through the fields. "Orion's dead, but its ideas, control, stability over chaos, still have fans in high places." Blackwood's loyalty, once questioned, was now ironclad, proven by his role in outmaneuvering General Nathan Pierce. He'd become the Institute's bridge to Washington, ensuring its voice carried weight. The ranch itself had woven into Clearwater Valley's fabric. Marcus had leased and used fields to a local farmer, Tom Grayson, whose family had worked the land for generations. In return, Tom supplied the Institute's kitchen, his wife, Clara, baking bread that filled the dining hall with warmth. The town, once a ghost of its boom days, saw new life. Researchers rented homes. A cafe opened near the gas station, and school kids toured the Institute, learning about Walter's legacy. Marcus, initially a stranger, was now a fixture, greeted with nods at the general store. He'd never sought belonging, but it had found him. As night fell, Marcus returned to the house, the Constitution in his pocket. The Institute's lights glowed through the barn's windows where a night shift analyzed Reagan-era microfilms. He paused on the porch, looking out at the fields, now green with alfalfa and wheat, a testament to renewal. The ranch was more than a place, it was a promise, a vow to honor Walter's sacrifice and his own. He thought of the scholars inside, each a guardian in their own right, documenting truths that would shield democracy from future shadows. Yet Marcus's instincts, honed by war and betrayal, whispered caution. The Safeguards Act was a victory, but power was restless, always seeking cracks to exploit. Walter's archive held secrets still unopened, files on corporate influence, foreign alliances, programs that predated Orion. Ellen's latest report shared that morning had flagged a pattern, encrypted memos hinting at international counterparts to Orion buried in Cold War pacts. Blackwood had promised to investigate, but Marcus knew the truth, their work would never end. Democracy, like the ranch, required constant tending, its roots fragile despite its strength. He opened the Constitution, its pages soft under his fingers, and reread Walter's oath, principles above all. It was a creed Marcus lived by now, not out of duty but conviction. He'd been a soldier, a drifter, a survivor. Now he was a steward entrusted with a legacy that stretched beyond Wyoming's horizons. The ranch, once a refuge from his past, was a fortress for the future, its fields a canvas of hope, its lights a signal to the world. The truth would endure as long as someone stood to guard it. Marcus stepped inside, the door closing softly behind him. Tomorrow, he'd meet with Ellen to review new findings, call Blackwood to discuss agency pushback, walk the garden to honor Walter. Tonight, he'd rest, the Constitution on his bedside table, a reminder of the oath that had saved him and the nation. The Sullivan Oversight Institute was more than a name, it was a mission, a community, a lifeline. And Marcus Sullivan, once lost, was its beating heart, ready for whatever shadows lay ahead. The Sullivan Ranch, once a forgotten relic crumbling in the windswept expanse of Wyoming's Clearwater Valley, had undergone a remarkable metamorphosis. No longer a derelict outpost of sagging barns and weed-choked fields, it stood reborn as the Sullivan Oversight Institute, a fortress of transparency in a world still scarred by secrecy. Walter Sullivan's archive, a meticulously curated trove of Cold War secrets that had exposed Project Orion, a shadow government plotting to subvert democracy, had become the Institute's heart. Its documents fueling a revolution in accountability. The Constitutional Safeguards Act, signed into law in the spring of 2026 amidst a rare bipartisan fervor, ensured that no classified program could ever again evade congressional oversight, a direct legacy of Walter's decades-long vigilance. Marcus Sullivan, once a homeless veteran whose life had unraveled in the wake of 3 grueling tours in Afghanistan, had emerged as the Institute's steward, his nightmares of blood-soaked sand and mortar fire gradually receding as a newfound purpose anchored his soul. Ellen Hayes, the silver-haired former CIA operative who had been Walter's confidant, led the Institute's research arm, her sharp mind decoding the cryptic notes and faded microfilms that comprised Walter's legacy. Daniel Blackwood, the enigmatic DoD insider who had shifted from adversary to ally, served as liaison to federal agencies, navigating the labyrinth of Washington's power structures to ensure the Institute's findings translated into action. At the ranch's heart, a memorial garden bloomed, its centerpiece a polished granite stone inscribed with Walter's enduring creed, Guardian of the Constitution. On a crisp spring evening in 2027, as the Rockies' snow-capped peaks glowed amber in the fading light, Marcus stood in the garden, the air thick with the scent of sage and freshly turned earth. The ranch, 15 miles from the nearest gas station in Clearwater Valley's ghost town, hummed with quiet purpose. Its fields, once barren, now thrived under a cooperative lease with local farmers, their neat rows of alfalfa and barley a testament to renewal. The barn, its weathered planks restored, housed a state-of-the-art research hub where historians, cryptographers, and former intelligence analysts pored over Walter's archive, their screens casting soft glows against the night. The house, once a dusty mausoleum of Walter's solitary life, had been renovated into offices and guest quarters, its oak floors polished, its windows gleaming. Yet, for all its transformation, the ranch retained an aura of vigilance, as if the land itself remembered the secrets it had guarded. Marcus's boots crunched on the garden's gravel path as he approached a weathered bench overlooking a small pond, its surface rippling under the evening breeze. On the bench lay an unexpected package wrapped in plain brown paper, its edges secured with twine. His combat instincts, honed in Afghanistan's chaos, flared. A parcel left unannounced was no mere gift. He scanned the surroundings, noting the distant silhouette of a researcher crossing the field, the faint hum of a generator, the absence of unfamiliar vehicles. Satisfied, he sat and opened the package, revealing a pocket-sized Constitution, its leather cover worn to a soft sheen, its pages yellowed but intact. It was Walter's, unmistakable from the precise, angular handwriting that filled its margins, annotations of court rulings, executive orders, and a single, underlined oath, principles above all. Tucked inside was a note, its crisp FBI letterhead a stark contrast to the book's age. Found at Langley, misfiled in a decommissioned vault. It's yours. Sarah Klein. Marcus's breath caught, his fingers tracing the Constitution's spine. Sarah Klein, FBI Deputy Director, had been one of Walter's trusted allies, instrumental in dismantling Orion's leadership. Her notes suggested more than sentiment, it was a reminder of the archive's reach, its secrets still surfacing in unexpected corners. Holding the book, Marcus retraced his journey from a rusted pickup truck in a Cheyenne Walmart lot, his last $20 crumpled in his pocket, to this moment, standing as the steward of a mission that had reshaped a nation. 3 years ago, he'd been invisible, a veteran discarded by a system he'd bled for, his nights fractured by nightmares of Kandahar's dust and screams. The inheritance of the ranch, unwanted by anyone else, had been his lifeline, its derelict house offering shelter, its hidden chamber revealing Walter's truth. Exposing Orion, surviving Blackwood's pursuit, and forging the Safeguards Act had given Marcus something war never could, a reason to keep going. The garden stone caught his eye, its inscription glowing faintly in the dusk. Walter Sullivan, a man Marcus had never met, had become his North Star. Secret Service agent, Doty analyst, CIA shadow, Walter had worn many masks, but his core was unwavering. A belief that democracy, fragile and flawed, was worth protecting. Marcus's own oath, sworn at 18 when he enlisted, echoed in his mind. To defend the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic. In Afghanistan, that oath had been tested by ambiguous wars and shifting loyalties. Here, it was clear, its purpose sharpened by Walter's legacy. Inside the barn, Ellen Hayes leaned over a workbench, her reading glasses perched on her nose as she examined a reel of 1960s microfilm. Her flannel shirt and jeans belied her past as a CIA operative, but her focus was surgical, each movement deliberate. She'd been Walter's partner for 30 years, his confidant in Project Looking Glass, a black op that documented Power's abuses. When Marcus entered, she glanced up, her eyes sharp with curiosity. "What's that?" she asked, nodding at the Constitution. "Walter's," Marcus said, setting it beside her. "Klein found it at Langley. Feels like a message." Ellen's lips quirked, a rare half-smile. Walter loved leaving breadcrumbs. Probably tucked a cipher in there. She turned the microfilm reader's knob, revealing a grainy memo about Orion's funding, funneled through shell companies. "This is what keeps me up at night," she said. "We stopped Orion, but its roots, private contractors, off-books accounts, are still out there." Walter always said power doesn't die, it adapts. Marcus nodded, her words stirring the unease he'd felt since dusk. The Institute's work was methodical, cataloging Walter's archive, cross-referencing names, dates, and deals to ensure Orion's remnants couldn't regrow. The Safeguards Act had mandated transparency, annual audits of classified programs, civilian oversight boards, but enforcement was a battle. Blackwood, stationed in D.C., sent weekly reports of resistance, Pentagon officials dragging their feet, contractors lobbying to weaken the act. The Institute's staff, 30 strong, a mix of idealists and grizzled ex-spooks, faced their own challenges, from funding disputes to veiled threats on dark web forums. Yet, the ranch stood firm, its solar panels gleaming, its security systems, Walter's designs, upgraded by Ellen, keeping intruders at bay. Outside, Marcus passed the memorial garden again, where a young researcher, Amara Patel, tended the flower beds. A Stanford PhD in political history, Amara had joined the Institute after reading about Orion's trials, her passion for truth outweighing a lucrative think tank offer. "Evening, Marcus," she called, her hands dusted with soil. "Heard we got a new batch of tapes from the 80s. Reagan's voice, creepy to think he was part of this." "Not part," Marcus corrected gently. "Orion used presidents as much as it served them. Walter's notes make that clear." Amara nodded, her expression thoughtful. "Makes you wonder what else is out there, doesn't it? What Walter didn't find." Her words lingered as Marcus returned to the house, climbing the stairs to his office, a converted bedroom overlooking the fields. The desk held Walter's journal, its pages dense with weather logs and cryptic references to visitors. Marcus had read it cover to cover, searching for clues to Walter's mindset. A loner, estranged from family after a feud Marcus's father never explained, Walter had poured his life into the ranch, its isolation both shield and cage. Marcus, too, had known isolation, years in parking lots, avoiding mirrors that showed a stranger's face. The ranch had saved him, not just with shelter but with purpose, a chance to rebuild what war had broken. He opened the Constitution, flipping to Walter's annotations. A note beside Article 2 caught his eye, executive power unchecked is a republic's poison. 1963, Nightshade proved it. Marcus's pulse quickened. Nightshade, the nuclear protocol that bypassed Congress, had been Orion's seed, its audacity shaping Walter's mission. Other notes referenced Nixon's Watergate schemes, Reagan's off-book deals, each a brick in Orion's shadow state. The final page held a single line, "The oath endures when men fail." Marcus closed the book, his unease sharpening. Orion's leaders, General Nathan Pierce, the tech moguls, the intelligence chiefs, were in prison, their trials a public reckoning. But Ellen's warning echoed, power adapts. Downstairs, the Institute's comms room buzzed with activity. Javier Torres, a former NSA analyst, monitored incoming data, his screens tracking chatter about the Safeguards Act. Got a spike in encrypted traffic, Javier said as Marcus entered. DC servers, maybe DoD. Blackwood's digging, but it's slippery. Orion's old channels? Marcus asked, leaning over the screen. Could be, Javier replied. Or something new. After Orion, everyone's paranoid about oversight. Makes it hard to tell friend from foe. Marcus nodded, the weight of leadership settling. The Institute wasn't just a research hub, it was a target, its existence a challenge to those who thrived in shadows. Walter had known this, building the ranch as a fortress, hidden cameras, reinforced vaults, a panic room beneath the barn. Marcus had inherited that vigilance, his combat instincts never fully dormant. He'd faced insurgents in Afghanistan, Blackwood's agents at the ranch, but this felt different, a quiet, creeping threat like a storm gathering beyond the horizon. As night deepened, Marcus stepped onto the porch, the Constitution in his pocket, its edges worn from his touch. The ranch's lights glowed, a constellation of purpose against the dark. Scholars worked late, their voices a soft hum through open windows. The fields stretched to the Rockies, their green expanse a mirror of hope. Yet, as stars emerged, Marcus's unease crystallized. The fight against Orion had ended with arrests, reforms, a new law, but his instincts, forged in war's crucible, whispered a truth Walter had lived, no victory is final. Somewhere, in the shadows beyond the ranch, power was stirring, watching, waiting. Marcus gripped the Constitution, its oath his anchor, and vowed to be ready. The Institute's first year had been a whirlwind. Marcus, Ellen, and Blackwood had worked tirelessly, cataloging Walter's archive while briefing Congress on Orion's dismantled network. The trials of General Nathan Pierce and Orion's 6 other leaders. Convicted of conspiracy against the constitutional order, had unfolded under unprecedented security. Public reaction was muted, carefully managed to avoid panic, but the Safeguards Act had sparked a renaissance in governmental accountability. The Institute, funded by bipartisan grants and private donors, became a model for civilian oversight, its staff a mix of historians, analysts, and former intelligence officers. Marcus stood on the porch, watching a convoy of SUVs arrive for the Institute's quarterly oversight meeting. Senator James Colton, a grizzled advocate for transparency, led the delegation, joined by Admiral Laura Hayes and Klein. Inside, Ellen presented new findings from Walter's archive, declassified memos revealing Orion's ties to private defense contractors, hinting at a broader network. Walter suspected Orion wasn't isolated, she said, her silver-streaked hair catching the light. These documents suggest international parallels, similar programs in allied nations. Colton leaned forward, his voice gravelly. Are you saying Orion had global counterparts? Possibly, Ellen replied. Walter's notes mention sister protocols, code for coordinated continuity systems. He never confirmed their existence, but the leads are there. Marcus felt a chill. Orion's domestic conspiracy had nearly toppled democracy, a global network could be catastrophic. As the meeting adjourned, Colton pulled him aside. The Safeguards Act is a start, but it's domestic. If Walter's archive points to foreign equivalents, we need to act before they adapt to our playbook. That night, Marcus couldn't sleep. The pocket Constitution lay on his bedside table, its weight grounding him. His nightmares, Kandahar's chaos, comrades' screams, had receded, but a new tension gnawed. Walter's fight had been his alone for decades. Now, Marcus carried it, and the stakes felt larger than ever. At dawn, he walked the ranch's perimeter, the M1911 a familiar weight at his hip. The fields, once barren, thrived under a local farmer's care. A partnership Marcus had forged to sustain the Institute. Yet, the silence that once soothed him now carried an edge, as if the land itself sensed unfinished business. 2 weeks later, a delivery disrupted the Institute's rhythm. A courier, claiming to represent an anonymous donor, left a locked steel case at the gate. No return address, no signature, just a note. For the Guardian's heir. Marcus's instincts flared. Walter had been meticulous, never anonymous. In the barn's secure vault, Ellen and Blackwood joined him to open it. Inside was a single item, a microfilm reel labeled Sister Protocol Aegis 1983. A handwritten card in Walter's precise script read, "The truth is a chain. One link breaks, all fall. Find Aegis before it finds you." Blackwood's face tightened. Walter never mentioned Aegis. If this is one of his dead drops, it's a warning. Ellen scanned the microfilm using a restored reader from Walter's collection. The images revealed a 1983 CIA report heavily redacted describing Aegis, a British-led program mirroring Orion designed to ensure government continuity during nuclear escalation. Unlike Orion, Aegis integrated private sector tech giants, creating a hybrid network of state and corporate power. Walter's marginalia noted a meeting in London, 1984, where Aegis leaders discussed global synchronization with Orion and a third program, Vulcan, based in Germany. The final page was chilling. Aegis reactivated, 2023. New leadership unknown. Threat level critical. "This changes everything," Ellen said. "If Aegis is active, it could be rebuilding Orion's framework abroad, out of our jurisdiction." Marcus's mind raced. Why send this now? And why anonymously? Blackwood's voice was grim. "Someone knows we're digging. This is either help or bait." The team agreed to investigate discreetly. Ellen cross-referenced Walter's archive for Aegis references, while Blackwood leveraged DoD contacts to probe British intelligence leaks. Marcus, restless, pored over the microfilm's metadata, noticing a faint watermark. Echelon Group. A quick search revealed Echelon as a London-based security firm, rumored to handle off-books operations for NATO allies. Its CEO, Sir Alistair Crane, was a former MI6 officer with ties to Cold War-era continuity programs. 3 days later, a sleek black sedan arrived unannounced. Marcus, repairing a fence near the gate, tensed as a woman in her 40s stepped out, her tailored suit and clipped British accent marking her as an outsider. "Mr. Sullivan? I'm Dr. Claire Ramsey, Echelon Group. I believe you received a package recently." His hand hovered near the M1911, concealed under his jacket. "You'll need to be more specific." She smiled thinly. "A microfilm, Aegis. I represent parties interested in its contents, and your institute's work." Marcus kept his expression neutral. "We're a research outfit, Dr. Ramsey. Historical records, not corporate deals." Her eyes flickered, assessing. "Walter Sullivan's archive is more than history. Aegis is a shared concern. My employers wish to collaborate, ensure certain truths remain contained." "Containment's not our style," Marcus said, stepping closer. "If you've got something to say, spit it out." Ramsey's composure held. "Aegis is active, but not as Walter knew it. Its new leaders see your institute as a threat. Cooperation could protect you. Refusal complicates matters." She handed him a card with a London number. 48 hours, Mr. Sullivan. Choose wisely." As her car vanished, Marcus called Ellen and Blackwood to the vault. Ramsey's visit confirmed the microfilm's authenticity and danger. "She's a scout," Blackwood said. "Testing our response. Echelon's likely a front for Aegis's corporate arm." Ellen's research had uncovered more. Walter's journals mentioned a 1985 attempt to infiltrate Aegis thwarted when his contact, a British analyst, vanished. Walter suspected Aegis had sleeper agents in U.S. agencies, she said. "If they're reactivating, they'll target us to silence Walter's legacy." Marcus gripped the pocket constitution, its edges worn from his touch. "We need to find Aegis's leadership before they move." Walter's card said, "Find Aegis before it finds you." He left us a trail. The microfilm's final note hinted at a lead, Aegis key stored where the Thames meets the Crown. Ellen traced it to London's Crown Court, where Walter had a safe deposit box under an alias accessible with a code tied to Marcus's grandfather's birthdate, 7-19. Marcus volunteered to retrieve it despite Ellen's protests. "You're not trained for overseas ops," she said. "I've faced worse than spooks in suits," Marcus countered. "Walter chose me for this. I'm going." Blackwood arranged to cover identity through DoD channels, posing Marcus as a historian consulting British archives. Klein, informed of the threat, provided FBI support, embedding an agent, Rachel Torres, to monitor Echelon's movements in London. Marcus flew out, the pocket constitution in his jacket, a reminder of his oath. London's grey bustle felt alien after Wyoming's open skies, but his combat instincts sharpened, scanning for tails. At Crown Court, he entered the code, July 19, 39, into a vault terminal. The box yielded a USB drive and a note. Aegis Leadership List, 2023. Vulcan link confirmed. Trust no one but the Keeper. The drive held a single file. A roster naming Sir Alistair Crane as Aegis's director, alongside 6 others, European politicians, tech moguls, and a German general tied to Vulcan. A second file, encrypted, mentioned the Keeper, a codename Walter trusted. As Marcus exited, a man in a grey coat followed, his pace too deliberate. Marcus slipped into an alley, doubling back to lose him, but a second figure, a woman with a scarf, joined the pursuit. His phone buzzed. "Torres, Echelon's tracking you. Get to the safe house now." He sprinted through Soho, heart pounding, Afghanistan's chaos flashing in his mind. At the safe house, Torres, a wiry ex-Marine, greeted him with a nod. "You're clean, but Echelon's got eyes everywhere. What did you find?" He showed her the drive. Aegis's leaders and something about Vulcan, a German program. "We need to decrypt the second file." Torres's tech skills cracked the encryption, revealing a video. Walter, gaunt, speaking in a dimly lit room, 2023. "If you're watching, you found Aegis. The Keeper is Dr. Elena Voss, former BND analyst, now in hiding. She has Vulcan's blueprints, proof of a triadic network with Orion. Aegis plans a global crisis, Operation Meridian, to synchronize emergency protocols across NATO. Stop Crane before Meridian launches. Coordinates for Voss: 48.137, 11.575. The video cut off. Marcus's gut twisted. Meridian sounded like Eclipse's successor, a coordinated power grab. Voss's coordinates pointed to Munich. "We need her," he told Torres. "She's the key to dismantling this." The weight of Walter Sullivan's pocket constitution tucked inside Marcus Sullivan's jacket was a quiet anchor as he stood in a London safe house, the city's grey drizzle blurring the windows. Rachel Torres, the FBI agent assigned by Deputy Director Sarah Klein, paced nearby, her wiry frame tense, her ex-Marine instincts mirrored in her clipped movements. The USB drive Marcus had retrieved from Crown Court, a roster of Aegis's leaders and a cryptic file about Operation Meridian, burned in his pocket, its secrets a ticking bomb. Torres had just confirmed transport to Munich through Klein's secure channels, but her warning cut through the room's stale air. "Echelon's got reach, Sullivan. If Alistair Crane knows you have that drive, Munich's a trap." Marcus nodded, his jaw tight, the Constitution's leather cover grounding him against the rising pulse of adrenaline. "Trap or not, Voss is our only lead. Walter called her the Keeper for a reason." His voice was steady, but inside, doubt gnawed. He was a combat medic turned drifter, not a spy. Afghanistan had taught him to survive ambushes, but this was a shadow war, faceless enemies, global stakes, and a conspiracy that could topple democracies. The oath he'd sworn at 18 to defend the Constitution felt both distant and urgent, a thread tying him to Walter's mission. Torres checked her encrypted phone, her dark eyes narrowing. "Flight leaves in 3 hours. Klein's got us on a private jet, diplomatic cover. But Echelon's got informants in every airport. We move fast, no mistakes. She handed Marcus a burner phone and a fake passport listing him as a Canadian academic, Mark Evans. Memorize the alias. One slip, we're done. Marcus studied the passport, his reflection faint in the safe house's dim light. At 34, his face bore the wear of war, lines etched by sleepless nights, eyes that had seen too much death. The bronze star in his duffel, buried under spare clothes, was a relic of a life he'd lost. Yet here he was, halfway across the world, chasing a dead man's clues. Let's do this, he said, pocketing the documents. The flight to Munich was a tense blur, the jets hum a backdrop to Marcus's racing thoughts. Torres briefed him midair, her voice low. Elena Voss, ex-BND analyst, went off-grid in 2019. Walter's video said she has Vulcan's blueprints, proof of a triadic network, Orion, Aegis, Vulcan. If Meridian's their endgame, Voss is the key to dismantling it. She paused, her gaze piercing. You trust her? Walter did, Marcus replied. That's enough for now. Torres snorted softly. Trust got Walter killed. Stay sharp, Sullivan. The weight of Walter Sullivan's pocket constitution tucked inside Marcus Sullivan's jacket was a quiet anchor as he stood in a London safe house, the city's gray drizzle blurring the windows. Rachel Torres, the FBI agent assigned by Deputy Director Sarah Klein, paced nearby, her wiry frame tense, her ex-Marine instincts mirrored in her clipped movements. The USB drive Marcus had retrieved from Crown Court, a roster of Aegis's leaders and a cryptic file about Operation Meridian, burned in his pocket, its secrets a ticking bomb. Torres had just confirmed transport to Munich through Klein's secure channels, but her warning cut through the room's stale air. Echelon's got reach, Sullivan. If Alistair Crane knows you have that drive, Munich's a trap. Marcus nodded, his jaw tight, the Constitution's leather cover grounding him against the rising pulse of adrenaline. Trap or not, Voss is our only lead. Walter called her the keeper for a reason. His voice was steady, but inside, doubt gnawed. He was a combat medic turned drifter, not a spy. Afghanistan had taught him to survive ambushes, but this was a shadow war, faceless enemies, global stakes, and a conspiracy that could topple democracies. The oath he'd sworn at 18 to defend the Constitution felt both distant and urgent, a thread tying him to Walter's mission. Torres checked her encrypted phone, her dark eyes narrowing. Flight leaves in 3 hours. Klein's got us on a private jet, diplomatic cover. But Echelon's got informants in every airport. We move fast, no mistakes. She handed Marcus a burner phone and a fake passport listing him as a Canadian academic, Mark Evans. Memorize the alias. One slip, we're done. Marcus studied the passport, his reflection faint in the safe house's dim light. At 34, his face bore the wear of war, lines etched by sleepless nights, eyes that had seen too much death. The bronze star in his duffel, buried under spare clothes, was a relic of a life he'd lost. Yet here he was, halfway across the world, chasing a dead man's clues. Let's do this, he said, pocketing the documents. The flight to Munich was a tense blur, the jets hum a backdrop to Marcus's racing thoughts. Torres briefed him midair, her voice low. Elena Voss, ex-BND analyst, went off-grid in 2019. Walter's video said she has Vulcan's blueprints, proof of a triadic network, Orion, Aegis, Vulcan. If Meridian's their endgame, Voss is the key to dismantling it. She paused, her gaze piercing. You trust her? Walter did, Marcus replied. That's enough for now. Torres snorted softly. Trust got Walter killed. Stay sharp, Sullivan. Munich greeted them with a cold October drizzle, the city's spires and neon signs glistening under a slate-gray sky. They navigated through Franz Josef Strauss Airport, blending with the crowd, Marcus in a nondescript jacket, Torres in a business suit, her Glock concealed under her blazer. A contact from Klein's network, a German federal police officer named Lucas Brandt, met them at a baggage claim, his blonde hair and sharp cheekbones making him look more like a model than a cop. No tails so far, Brandt whispered, handing them keys to a black Audi. Voss's address is in Schwabing. I've got eyes on the street, but Echelon's active here. Move quickly. The drive to Schwabing was silent, Munich's orderly streets a stark contrast to Marcus's inner turmoil. He clutched the Constitution, its edges worn from his touch, and thought of the ranch, its fields now green, the Sullivan Oversight Institute, a beacon of truth. He turned a derelict inheritance into a mission, but Meridian threatened to undo it all. If Voss's intel was real, they could stop Crane and the Triad. If it was a setup, he and Torres were walking into a kill zone. The apartment building in Schwabing was unremarkable, 5 stories, beige stucco, windows shuttered against the rain. Brandt stayed in the car, monitoring comms, while Marcus and Torres climbed to the 3rd floor. Marcus knocked on Voss's door, his other hand near the M1911 in his waistband. The door cracked open, revealing a wiry woman in her 60s, her gray hair pulled into a tight bun, her sharp blue eyes scanning them like a hawk. A Beretta pistol gleamed in her hand, its barrel steady. "Sullivan?" she asked, her German accent clipped. "Walter's there?" "Yes," Marcus said, slowly raising the USB drive. "He said you're the keeper." Voss's gaze flicked to Torres, then back to Marcus. She lowered the gun but didn't holster it, stepping aside. "Inside. Now." The apartment was sparse, minimal furniture, blinds drawn, a faint smell of coffee. Voss locked the door, engaging 3 deadbolts, and gestured to a hallway. "This way. No devices, leave your phones here." Marcus hesitated, glancing at Torres, who nodded slightly. They placed their burners on a table, following Voss to a reinforced door disguised as a closet. She entered a code, and it opened to a hidden room, its walls lined with steel cabinets, files stacked meticulously, a single computer glowing on a desk. The air was cool, tinged with the scent of old paper and electronics, reminiscent of Walter's vault at the ranch. Voss holstered her Beretta, her posture still coiled, and faced them. "Walter saved my life in '85. I owe him everything. But you, why should I trust you?" Marcus met her stare, the Constitution's weight steadying him. "Because Walter chose me. He left me the ranch, the archive, this fight. I'm here to finish it." Voss studied him, her eyes probing for weakness. "You're a soldier, not a spook. This isn't your world." "It wasn't Walter's either at first," Marcus countered. "He made it his. I will too." Torres broke the tension. "We don't have time for this. The USB has Aegis's leadership, Crane's the head. Walter's video said you've got Vulcan's blueprints, proof of Meridian. We need it now." Voss's lips thinned, but she nodded, pulling a chair to the desk. "Sit. You need to understand what you're up against." She opened a cabinet, retrieving a thick dossier labeled Vulcan Protocol, its pages stamped with BND seals. Vulcans like Orion and Aegis, a shadow state, born in the Cold War to ensure government continuity during nuclear escalation. But it evolved just as Orion did. By the 2000s, it was a network of military, corporate, and intelligence elites operating beyond oversight. She spread the dossier's contents, maps, org charts, encrypted emails across the desk. Operation Meridian is their endgame, simultaneous crises across Europe and North America, cyber attacks on financial systems, blackouts in major cities, terror strikes on infrastructure. The chaos triggers emergency powers, suspending elections, consolidating control under the Triad, a council linking Orion, Aegis, and Vulcan. Alistair Crane's the architect for Aegis, but he answers to the Triad's inner circle, names even I don't know. Marcus's gut twisted as he scanned a map pinpointing targets: New York, London, Berlin, Paris, Toronto. How close are they? Months, maybe weeks, Voss said, her voice hard. Walter planned to expose Meridian in 2023, but they got to him first. Heart attack, they claimed. I've been hiding since, moving every few months, keeping his work alive. She tapped a photo of a fortified complex near Berlin, its razor wire glinting under floodlights. This is Vulcan's control hub, their nerve center. It coordinates Meridian's attacks. Crane's London office feeds it data through Echelon Group. Torres leaned forward, her eyes narrowing. Why didn't you act? You've had this for years. Voss's face darkened. Because I tried in '85. I was BND, working with Walter to infiltrate Aegis's predecessor. We got close, too close. My team was ambushed in Hamburg. I barely escaped. Walter got me out, faked my death, gave me a new identity. I've been a ghost since, collecting scraps, waiting for someone like you. Her gaze locked on Marcus. You're in over your head, Sullivan. The Triads got agents in every government, MI6, CIA, even the B&D. One wrong move, you're dead. Then we hit them first, Marcus said, his voice steady despite the fear clawing his chest. Expose Crane. Disrupt Meridian before it launches. Voss shook her head, her laugh bitter. Evidence alone won't touch them. The Triads insulated, plausible deniability, layers of proxies. You need leverage, something they can't ignore. Torres's eyes lit up, her marine instincts kicking in. Walter's Protocol Dawn mass exposure. We adapt it, target their financial networks, freeze their assets. Cut off their money. They can't move. Voss's expression shifted, a flicker of respect. Risky but possible. I have contacts in Swiss banking, discreet, untraceable. They can flag Triad accounts, trigger audits. But it's a narrow window. Crane's got redundancies, offshore shells, crypto vaults. You'd need precise timing. Marcus opened the USB drive on Voss's computer, displaying the Aegis roster, Crane, a former MI6 officer, a French telecom CEO, a German general tied to Vulcan, 3 others. Politicians and financiers, their faces cold in official portraits. The encrypted file, now decrypted, included Walter's video, his gaunt face warning of Meridian's scope. A second document listed coordinates 48.137, 11.575, the apartment they stood in. Walter had known Voss would be here, his foresight chilling. How do we find the Triad's inner circle? Marcus asked, his fingers tracing the Constitution's outline through his jacket. Voss pulled another file, this one marked Triad, hypothesized. Walter and I built this over decades, patterns, anomalies. The Triad's not just Crane's council, it's a shadow cabinet, maybe 12 people, embedded in NATO, G7 governments, tech giants. They don't meet in person, use encrypted relays. But their money moves through Zurich, Dubai, Singapore. My Swiss contact can trace it, but we need a catalyst, something to force their hand. Torres tapped the desk. The Aegis roster. Leak it strategically, media, regulators, allies. It'll spook their financiers, make them sloppy. Voss nodded slowly. It could work, but you'll need protection. Echelon's already hunting you. She glanced at Marcus. You were followed from London, weren't you? Marcus's stomach dropped. We lost a tail in Soho. Torres confirmed we were clean. Echelon doesn't need tails, Voss said, pulling up a security feed on her computer. A street camera showed their Audi parked outside, a man in a trench coat lingering nearby, his face obscured. That's one of Crane's. You've got minutes before they breach. Torres drew her Glock, checking the mag. We need to move. Voss, you're with us. Voss hesitated, then grabbed a go bag from under the desk, passports, cash, a second pistol. There's a back exit, leads to an alley. My contact's in Zurich, we can reach him by dawn if we're not dead. The trio slipped out through a concealed stairwell, emerging into a rain-slicked alley. Munich's nightlife pulsed nearby, laughter, music, but the alley was a pocket of silence, broken only by their footsteps. Marcus took point, M1911 ready, his combat instincts flaring. Torres covered the rear, her Glock sweeping the shadows. Voss moved between them, her bag slung tight, her eyes scanning rooftops. A black van screeched into the alley's mouth, its doors sliding open. 3 figures in tactical gear spilled out, submachine guns glinting. Down! Marcus shouted, shoving Voss behind a dumpster. Bullets sparked against brick, the air sharp with cordite. Torres returned fire, dropping one operative, but the others advanced, using the van as cover. Marcus's heart pounded, Afghanistan's chaos flashing, dust, screams, the weight of a dying friend. He forced it back, aiming low, hitting an operative's knee. The man collapsed, screaming. Move! Torres yelled, pointing to a side street. They sprinted, Voss surprisingly agile, her training evident. The third operative pursued, his radio crackling with orders. Marcus spotted a fire escape, its ladder rusted but intact. "Up!" he barked, boosting Voss onto the rungs. Torres followed, covering their ascent. The operative reached the base, firing upward, but Marcus kicked the ladder free, sending it crashing. On the rooftop they ran, leaping to an adjacent building, the city sprawling below. Sirens wailed, Munich's police responding to the gunfire. Voss led them to a skylight, smashing it with her pistols, but they dropped into an abandoned warehouse, its air thick with dust and oil. "This way," Voss said, navigating to a loading dock. A battered VW van waited, keys in the ignition, her escape plan, prepped years ago. They piled in, Voss driving, weaving through Munich's backstreets. Torres monitored her burner, relaying to Brandt, "We're compromised. Need exfil to Zurich." Marcus clutched the Constitution, its presence a lifeline. "How'd they find us so fast?" he asked Voss. "Echelon's got access to B&D feeds," she said, eyes on the road. "Cranes probably tapped airport CCTV, tracked your jet. You're lucky I had that camera outside." The van hit the Autobahn, Munich fading behind them. Zurich was 4 hours away, their Swiss contact a last hope to cripple the Triad's finances. Marcus's mind raced, Walter's oath, the ranch's mission, the lives Meridian would claim. He wasn't just fighting for himself anymore, he was fighting for the principles Walter died for a world that still believed in truth. By dawn, the Alps loomed, Zurich's spires faint on the horizon. Voss's contact awaited, a banker with secrets of his own. Marcus tightened his grip on the USB, ready to strike the Triad where it hurt most. The Constitution, small but heavy, reminded him, principles above all. Marcus Sullivan crouched in the Munich safe house, the weight of Walter's pocket Constitution in his jacket pocket grounding him as he initiated a secure video call to the Sullivan Oversight Institute. The screen flickered, revealing Ellen Hayes and Daniel Blackwood in the ranch's vault, their faces etched with urgency. Marcus's voice was steady despite the exhaustion gnawing at him. "We've got Voss's dossier, Crane's the head of Aegis, backed by a council of 6 across Europe. Vulcan's hub is near Berlin, and Operation Meridian's their endgame, synchronized crises to trigger emergency powers globally. We have a lead on their financial network, but we need to move fast." Ellen's silver-streaked hair caught the vault's dim light as she leaned forward. "Walter's Protocol Dawn is our best shot, mass exposure to cripple their operations. I'll adapt it, create a digital package for media, NATO allies, and financial regulators. We'll need to hit their credibility and funding simultaneously." Blackwood, his DoD credentials a faint shadow of his current role, nodded grimly. "I can infiltrate Echelon's London office. Plant a worm to disrupt their comms, buy us a window before they regroup. But Crane's not alone, Aegis has assets in MI6, maybe higher. We're poking a hornet's nest." Marcus glanced at Rachel Torres, the FBI agent beside him, her ex-Marine instincts evident in her coiled posture. "Torres and I will target Crane's financial backbone with Voss's evidence, illicit transfers through Swiss banks. If we freeze his accounts, it'll spark panic in Aegis's council, force them to make mistakes." Ellen's voice cut through the static. "Timing's critical. Crane will retaliate, likely at the ranch. We'll fortify here, activate Walter's defenses. Marcus, you and Torres get those leaks to the Swiss authorities, then get back. We'll need you for the fallout." The call ended and Marcus felt the familiar surge of adrenaline, the same clarity that had guided him through Afghanistan's chaos. But this wasn't a battlefield of sand and steel, it was a war of shadows where a single misstep could unravel everything Walter had built. He turned to Torres. "Ready to shake up some bankers?" Torres's lips twitched, a ghost of a smile. "Let's make Crane sweat." In Munich, Marcus and Torres worked with Dr. Elena Voss, the former B&D analyst and Walter's trusted keeper. Voss's apartment, a fortress of files and encrypted servers, became their command center. Her dossier detailed Aegis's financial web, shell companies, offshore accounts, and laundered funds funneled through Zurich and Geneva. Crane's personal fortune, tied to Echelon Group, was the linchpin. "He's leveraged to the hilt," Voss explained, her sharp eyes scanning a spreadsheet. freeze his liquidity, and his council, politicians, CEOs, generals will turn on each other. Torres, her tech skills honed by FBI counterintelligence, crafted a secure transmission to Swiss regulators embedding Voss's evidence, bank records, wiretap transcripts, and forged contracts linking Crane to illegal arms deals. Marcus, less adept with tech but sharp on strategy, suggested a dual approach. Leak a teaser to financial blogs enough to spook markets without tipping our hand. The regulators will act faster under pressure. Voss nodded, her fingers flying across a keyboard. I have contacts in Zurich, old BND allies. They'll ensure the evidence reaches the Financial Market Authority by dawn. She paused, her voice softening. Walter would have liked you, Sullivan. He always said the fight needed soldiers, not just spies. By midnight, the package was sent, encrypted, and routed through anonymous servers. Marcus monitored dark web forums where whispers of Echelon's exposure began to surface. Within hours, Swiss authorities froze Crane's accounts, citing suspicious activity. News outlets picked up the story, framing it as a corporate scandal, while Aegis's counsel, blindsided, scrambled to cover their tracks. Voss's contacts reported panic in Geneva. 2 council members, a French senator and a Dutch tech mogul, were liquidating assets, exposing their ties to Aegis. But Crane was no amateur. Marcus knew retaliation was coming, and the ranch, Walter's legacy, was the obvious target. He and Torres booked a red-eye flight to Denver, then a chartered plane to Wyoming, their cover as historians strained but holding. Voss stayed behind, promising to relay any chatter from her network. Find me if Meridian launches, she said, handing Marcus a burner phone. I'll be ready. Back at the ranch, Marcus arrived at dusk, the Rockies' silhouette a stark reminder of the stakes. The Sullivan Oversight Institute buzzed with controlled chaos, staff cataloging Walter's archive, analysts cross-referencing Aegis leads. Ellen greeted him in the barn's vault, her tactical gear a stark contrast to the scholars around her. Blackwood's in London, she said. His worm's live, Echelon's comms are scrambled for 48 hours. But Crane's not waiting. Sigint picked up orders for a strike team, ETA midnight. Marcus's combat instincts flared. What's our defense? Ellen led him to a control panel hidden behind a false wall, a relic of Walter's paranoia. Perimeter defenses, motion sensors, infrared triggers, automated turrets. Non-lethal, mostly gas canisters, EMP pulses to disable gear. Lethal options if it comes to that. She hesitated, her eyes searching his. We've got local allies, too. Tom Carver, the farmer leasing our fields, rallied his crew. They're not soldiers, but they know the land. Marcus nodded, recalling Carver's weathered face, his quiet pride in the ranch's revival. How many? 8, including Carver. Hunters, mostly rifles, shotguns. They'll cover the outer perimeter, slow any advance. Ellen's voice hardened. This isn't just about the archive, Marcus. Crane wants to send a message, cross Aegis, and you burn. Marcus checked his M1911, its weight familiar, and grabbed a tactical vest from the vault's armory. Then we send one back, the ranch stands. He briefed Carver's team, their faces a mix of resolve and fear, a ranchers, mechanics, a retired sheriff, all bound by loyalty to the land and Walter's memory. Marcus assigned them positions along the fence line, emphasizing hit-and-run tactics. Delay, don't engage directly. We'll handle the heavy lifting. Inside the barn, Ellen activated the defenses, screens lighting up with sensor feeds. Marcus took position in the loft, a vantage point overlooking the gate. The Institute's staff, historians, coders, archivists, were evacuated to a safe house 10 miles away, leaving only Marcus, Ellen, and a skeleton crew of armed researchers. The night was still, the half-moon casting long shadows, but Marcus's gut churned. He'd faced ambushes in war, but defending a ranch-turned fortress against a private army was a new kind of fight. The assault. At 11:58 p.m., the sensors pinged a dozen heat signatures breaching the eastern gate. Marcus peered through night vision binoculars, spotting operatives in black tactical gear, moving with military precision. They carried suppressed rifles, comms headsets, and what looked like breaching charges. Professionals, he muttered, keying his radio. Ellen, they're splitting 6 to the barn, 6 to the house. Carver, hit the flankers, then fall back. Carver's team opened fire from the tree line, their hunting rifles cracking in the night. 2 operatives dropped, wounded, but the others returned fire, their suppressors muffling the shots. Marcus descended to the barn's ground floor, using hay bales as cover. The turrets whirred to life, launching tear gas canisters that enveloped the advancing team in white clouds. Coughing and disoriented, 3 operatives stumbled, and Marcus moved in, his combat training seamless: disarm, disable, restrain. He zip-tied them, dragging them behind a workbench before the gas reached him. Ellen's voice crackled in his earpiece. House teams at the cellar. I've got EMPs ready, electronics are toast if they breach. Marcus sprinted across the yard, staying low as bullets chipped the ground. Carver's militia held the perimeter, their gunfire pinning the second team, but one operative lobbed a flashbang, scattering the locals. Marcus tackled the thrower, a wiry man with a scar across his cheek, and knocked him out with a precise strike. The barn's turrets pivoted, their laser sights locking onto the remaining attackers, who froze, realizing they were outmaneuvered. Stand down, Marcus shouted, his M1911 trained on the lead operative, a woman with cold eyes. She hesitated, then dropped her rifle, signaling surrender. The others followed, their gear sparking from EMP damage. Carver's team emerged, binding the captives, while Ellen secured the house, her pistol drawn. The assault was over in 15 minutes, but Marcus's pulse didn't slow. He searched the lead operative, finding a laptop in her pack, its screen still active, a countdown labeled Meridian, 72 hours. They weren't here to destroy the archive, Marcus said, showing Ellen the laptop. They wanted to steal it, use it to accelerate Meridian. Ellen's face was grim. 3 days. We need Dawn now. Back in the vault, Marcus and Ellen analyzed the laptop, its files confirming Meridian's scope, cyber attacks on European grids, staged bombings in major cities, and a coordinated NATO emergency protocol to install Aegis and Vulcan's leaders. The ranch's victory had bought time, but Crane was still out there, his counsel fractured but dangerous. Marcus made the call: we execute Protocol Dawn. Full exposure, every network, every ally. Ellen finalized the digital package, a masterwork of Walter's vision, Voss's dossier, Walter's archive excerpts, intercepted Aegis comms, and the Munich video of Walter's warning. She routed it through secure channels to global media, BBC, Der Spiegel, the New York Times, NATO's Security Council, and financial regulators in London, Brussels, and Washington. Blackwood, back from London, coordinated with DoD allies, ensuring U.S. military commands received unredacted evidence. "This'll light a fire," he said, his voice taut. "Crane's done, but the triads got deep roots." The package hit at 6 a.m. Wyoming time, igniting a global storm. Headlines screamed of a transatlantic conspiracy, with Crane's arrest in London dominating broadcasts. MI6, stung by Echelon's betrayal, detained 2 council members, a British peer and a Danish banker. German authorities, tipped by Voss, raided Vulcan's Berlin hub, seizing servers and arresting its general. Voss's evidence, paired with Dawn's release, dismantled Meridian's infrastructure, halting its planned attacks. Markets wobbled as Aegis's corporate allies faced sanctions, but democracy held firm, bolstered by public outrage. By dawn, the ranch was a fortress of quiet triumph. Carver's militia stood guard, their faces proud despite bruises. Ellen cataloged the captured operatives' gear, feeding intel to Klein's FBI team, now en route. Marcus stood in the memorial garden, Walter's Constitution in hand, its oath a lifeline, principles above all. The triad, though crippled, wasn't dead. Fragments lurked, waiting to regroup. But the ranch, scarred yet standing, was proof of resilience. Blackwood joined him, his suit rumpled from days without sleep. Klein's taking the prisoners. Colton's pushing a Senate inquiry into Aegis's U.S. ties. "We won this round, Sullivan, but it's not over." Marcus nodded, the horizon glowing with first light. Walter knew that. So do I. The Institute's lights burned bright, scholars returning to document the fight. The ranch, once a refuge, was a beacon, its fields green with promise, its mission clear, guard the truth, no matter the cost. By the spring of 2027, the Sullivan Oversight Institute had transcended its origins as a Wyoming ranch, emerging as a global cornerstone of governmental transparency. The defeat of Operation Meridian, a triadic conspiracy spanning Project Orion in the US, Aegis in the UK, and Vulcan in Germany, had cemented its mandate. Marcus Sullivan, once a homeless veteran haunted by Afghanistan's ghosts, stood at its helm, no longer defined by his past but by a purpose forged in crisis. Ellen Hayes, the CIA veteran who'd guided him through Walter Sullivan's secrets, led the Institute's research division, her meticulous mind decoding decades of covert history. Daniel Blackwood, the reformed DoD operative, bridged the Institute with global agencies, ensuring its findings shaped policy. Dr. Elena Voss, the German analyst who'd risked everything to expose Vulcan, joined as a consultant, her expertise driving international reforms to prevent shadow states. The ranch's fields, once choked with weeds, now bloomed under careful stewardship, a living symbol of renewal mirroring the Institute's mission. Marcus's nightmares, once a nightly torment of blood and shrapnel, had faded to rare echoes, replaced by a clarity that anchored him. He was the guardian of Walter's oath, a vow to protect democracy against those who would subvert it. On April 17, 2027, the second anniversary of Walter's letter that had pulled Marcus from despair, he stood in the Institute's memorial garden, the air fragrant with blooming sage and wildflowers. The pocket constitution, Walter's, rested in his hand, its pages softened by years of use, its margins crowded with his great-uncle's handwritten notes, principles above all. Power unchecked is tyranny's seed. A new granite stone had joined Walter's, engraved for Dr. Hans Mueller, Voss's mentor, who'd vanished in 1985 while infiltrating Aegis. The garden, once a solitary tribute, was now a quiet sanctuary, its paths lined with markers for unsung guardians of truth, analysts, whistleblowers, operatives lost to the shadows they fought. Senator James Colton, his weathered face etched with the weight of recent battles, arrived that afternoon, his visit unannounced but welcome. The Institute's oversight board, including Admiral Laura Hayes and FBI Deputy Director Sarah Klein, gathered in the barn's converted conference hall, its walls lined with declassified documents from Walter's archive. Colton, a longtime ally, addressed the team, his voice resonant with conviction. 2 years ago, this ranch was a footnote. Today, it's a model for the world, NATO's adopting your oversight protocols and the UN's drafting a transparency charter based on your work. But you, Marcus, you're the heart of it. He produced a velvet case, revealing the Presidential Medal of Freedom, its ribbon gleaming. The president insists, "For your service then and now." Marcus studied the medal, its gold star a stark contrast to the bronze star buried in his duffel, a relic of a war that had broken him. He shook his head, his voice steady but firm. "This isn't about me, Senator. It's about the oath, Walter's, mine, everyone here. That's what keeps us going." Colton nodded, unsurprised, and tucked the case away, a faint smile acknowledging Marcus's resolve. As dusk painted the Rockies in hues of amber and violet, the Institute buzzed with activity. Scholars worked late in the archive wing, digitizing Walter's tapes and microfilms, their screens glowing with scanned memos from Truman to Reagan. Analysts cross-referenced Orion's financial trails, uncovering lingering shell companies that Blackwood's team was quietly dismantling. In the training annex, Marcus oversaw a new cohort of overseers, historians, coders, former soldiers, learning to detect covert networks, their faces alight with purpose. Ellen, in her office, pored over a newly discovered journal from Walter's early Secret Service days, its cryptic entries hinting at a fourth program, dormant but dangerous, in Asia. Voss, video conferencing from Berlin, briefed European regulators on Vulcan's dismantled hubs, her sharp voice cutting through bureaucratic resistance. Marcus wandered the grounds, the pocket constitution a talisman in his pocket. The ranch had grown, a solar array powered new buildings, a greenhouse supplied the kitchen, and a satellite dish linked the institute to global allies. The fields, leased to a cooperative of local farmers, yielded wheat and barley, their golden stalks swaying under the evening breeze. The barn, once a crumbling relic hiding Walter's chamber, now housed a state-of-the-art research hub, its concrete vault preserved as a monument to his foresight. Yet, despite the progress, Marcus's combat instincts, honed in Kandahar's dust, never fully quieted. Meridian's defeat had shattered the triad, but shadows lingered, whispers of rogue operatives, hidden accounts, plans paused but not abandoned. In the garden, Marcus paused by Walter's stone, its inscription, Guardian of the Constitution, etched deep. He traced the words reflecting on his journey. 2 years ago, he'd been a ghost, sleeping in a rusted pickup with $20 and a duffel bag, his nights shattered by screams only he could hear. Walter's letter, delivered like a lifeline, had given him a home, a fight, a reason to endure. Exposing Orion, then Meridian had tested him beyond war, navigating London's alleys, Munich's secrets, the ranch's defense against Aegis's assault. Each step had forged him anew, not erasing his scars but weaving them into strength. He was no longer the broken veteran, he was Walter's heir, a sentinel of principles that outlasted any man. A young analyst, Priya Sharma, approached, her tablet glowing with data. Marcus, we found something in Walter's 85 files, a reference to Project Lotus tied to Singapore. It's vague, but Ellen thinks it's connected to the Asian program. Her voice held the eager intensity of someone discovering history's weight for the first time. Marcus nodded, his mind already turning. Brief Ellen and Blackwood. Cross-check it with Voss's Vulcan data. If it's active, we need to know before it moves. Priya hurried off, and Marcus felt a surge of pride. The Institute wasn't just his or Walter's, it belonged to this new generation, their curiosity and courage a bulwark against future threats. That evening, the Oversight Board hosted a quiet ceremony in the garden, marking the anniversary. Klein, her FBI badge clipped to her blazer, spoke of Walter's archive as a compass for justice, its revelations still driving arrests of Orion's fringe players. Hayes, her admiral's stars glinting, praised the Institute's training program, noting its graduates now advised Pentagon reforms. Ellen, typically reserved, shared a rare personal memory. Walter in 1995, teaching her to encrypt microfilm under this very pine, his laughter softening his stern demeanor. He'd be proud, she said, her eyes on Marcus. Not just of you, but of what this place has become. Blackwood, ever the pragmatist, raised a glass of Wyoming whiskey. To vigilance. The shadows don't sleep, but neither do we. The toast echoed, glasses clinking under the stars, but Marcus's gaze lingered on the horizon where the Rockies met the sky. He knew Blackwood was right, Meridian's fall had wounded the triad, but power abhorred a vacuum. Project Lotus, if real, was a reminder the fight was eternal. After the ceremony, Marcus retreated to the house, now a blend of Walter's Spartan order and modern functionality. His bedroom, once a dusty relic, held a desk piled with reports, a cot replaced by a proper bed, and a framed photo of his old unit, their smiles a bridge to his past. He opened the pocket constitution, flipping to Walter's final note, the oath is a promise to the future, not the past. Marcus had underlined it months ago, a reminder when doubt crept in. His nightmares, though rare, still surfaced, flashes of fire, fallen friends, but they no longer ruled him. Purpose had carved a new path, one he walked with clarity. A knock interrupted his thoughts. Rachel Torres, the ex-Marine who'd saved him in London, stood at the door, her FBI liaison role now permanent. Got a minute? She asked, holding an encrypted drive. Voss sent this, preliminary, on Lotus. It's thin, but there's a name, Chen Wei, ex-Chinese intelligence, now a tech mogul in Singapore. Walter met him in '84, neutral ground. Could be a lead. Marcus took the drive, his instincts stirring. Get it to Ellen. If Chen's tied to Lotus, we need his network, contacts, funding, infrastructure. Torres nodded, her respect for Marcus unspoken but clear. As she left, he felt the ranch's pulse, the hum of servers, the murmur of late-night discussions, the wind through fields that had witnessed his transformation. The next morning, Marcus led a training session in the annex, teaching recruits to spot covert funding trails, his voice steady as he recounted Orion's tactics. A young veteran, Jamal Carter, lingered after, his prosthetic leg a silent testament to shared scars. "How do you keep going?" he asked. "After everything, war, this, how do you not burn out?" Marcus paused, the Constitution's weight in his pocket grounding him. "You find something bigger than yourself. For me, it's this place, what it stands for. Walter gave me that. You'll find yours." Jamal nodded, a spark of resolve in his eyes, and Marcus saw himself 2 years ago lost, then found. By mid-2027, the Institute launched a global fellowship, training overseers from Canada, Japan, and South Africa, their governments eager to replicate its model. Voss, now splitting time between Wyoming and Berlin, proposed a digital archive, making Walter's declassified findings public while safeguarding sensitive files. Ellen's team uncovered a 1987 memo linking Lotus to Aegis, suggesting a financial pipeline through Hong Kong. Blackwood, coordinating with Interpol, tracked Chen Wei's movements, confirming his role in a tech consortium with eerie parallels to Orion's corporate allies. On a quiet September evening, Marcus stood in the garden, the new stones now joined by one for a journalist killed exposing Vulcan's remnants. The Institute's lights glowed, a constellation of vigilance. He opened Walter's Constitution, its oath underlined, "I swear to preserve, protect, and defend." The words, once a soldier's duty, were now his life's creed. The ranch, once a refuge from his despair, had become a fortress against tyranny's shadows. Shadows that never fully faded, but neither did the light of those who stood against them. Marcus smiled, Walter's voice echoing in the wind. Principles above all. The fight continued, and he was ready.